Hi, this is Mary Curick with Frontrunners Innovate magazine, and if you've been following along with us, we do video interviews with several different types of people. Usually they're going to be people who are game changers that we are inviting into the magazine, and then we also have investors, advisors that we'll interview, and then there are people like Abby Stern. So Abby, thank you for being with us. Abby is a feature for us today because of what she does. And this edition of the magazine focuses on women's health and maternal health. And I sought Abby out because of her expertise in that area and because of special projects she's working on. So I'm gonna turn it over to Abby. And Abby, tell us a little bit about where you came from to do the work that you're doing. I mean, give us a little bit of your background, if you will.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So I primarily have worked, I guess my strongest background is in maternal and child health research and programming, including family health and early childhood health. So I've worked with nonprofits and close to government agencies, really looking at how health is determined from an early age or from, or even preconception. So I have my master's in public health, and that's where I really learned about the U.S. healthcare system and some of how our kind of systemic health inequities are built and how they persist. And so I've always been interested in using kind of this macro lens of women's health. And so when I came to HITLAB, which is a digital health research lab, I was working in research and health innovation. And that was, I've done a lot of research in health and public health, but that was my first time working at this intersection of health and technology, which I find really exciting because there's not, in kind of the public health world, there's really not a huge emphasis on innovation. And so the work that we do now at HITLAB is constantly, looking at innovation, looking into the future of health and health technology and how technology can, close a lot of or narrow the inequities that we see in health today, especially in women's health and maternal and child health. So the work that I do now is really informed by my public health lens and by the work that I've done in maternal and child health. And now every day it's very exciting because I get to see the fast-paced world of tech and how tech is really lending itself to further public health and further a lot of the work in women's health. So we call it women's health tech, or more commonly Femtech, which is really just the intersection of technology and all things women's health. So it's a really fun field to be in. It's definitely blossoming right now. It's having its moment. There's a ton of new startup founders and investors looking at the field. I think it's lacked investment for so long and it's lacked attention that now it's really kind of stepping into the light, and it's really exciting to be part of.
That's great. I interviewed a gal who heads up I call it, and I don't know if I termed this word, Fem Fund. So, and it's called She Fund, but a group of women or a network of women who fund startups. And they don't necessarily always have to be women owned, but I think that mostly that's what they're looking for. Right. And, helping them with some seed funding and also advice and expertise, that sort of thing. So, and we had that conversation about it's been lacking in that space for so long, the same thing that you were talking about. But this is great. Tell us a little bit about why the fund started, or why the initiative, started, and what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis with the initiative?
Yeah, so like I was saying, HITLAB, works in digital health research, and we also have programs in education and diffusing information about health innovation. And so a few years back, HITLAB started doing what they called at the time like these World Cup challenges, where they would invite innovators in a specific focus area to apply for basically what's a pitch fest. And then in May 2019, they focused their first World Cup on women's health technology. So they were, looking specifically for innovators to apply who are working in this intersection of women's health and technology. And that first challenge, happened so successfully. They had, such a kind of wide interest in this work, and the finalists that were pitching. There's so many stakeholders that were coming to the event. They decided to kind of build up what we now call our Women's Health Tech Challenge, and also kind of this larger umbrella of our Women's Health Tech Initiative. So the challenge is biannual. We just had our first virtual challenge this past May. It was really fun. We got to have, international guests, international finalists, which was our first time doing that. So that was kind of the silver lining of everything going virtual. And now we're planning another Women's Health Tech Challenge on November 19th, which is Women's Entrepreneurship Day. So while we're still looking at women's health, we're hoping to do a kind of zoom in on women entrepreneurs in women's health. And we're also using the platform of the challenge to look at companies that are specifically addressing health inequities in marginalized communities. So really using, pulling all of our resources together to make this challenge happen. And so, on a day-to-day, that really looks like doing a lot of talking to stakeholders in the field. So that could be founders that, of startups, that could be investors. We are researchers. We work with other, software developers, UI and UX designers and researchers, patent attorneys, government affairs. So, a lot of this, I think the fun thing about the work that I do and the work of the Women's Health Tech Initiative is that we're not just looking at startup founders and investors. So, they're important. They kind of make our world go round, but we're also looking at all of the other stakeholders who are passionate. They have an expertise to lend to the field. They also make the world go round, and they're, the fun part is the diversity of the crowd that comes to the challenge, be that in person or virtually, really just because we all genuinely care about furthering the field.
The challenge is open to anyone, anywhere, and around the globe.
Yes, for the most part. It's open to the majority of countries, I think, with some exceptions for countries that don't have great relations with the US. But largely speaking, it's an international challenge at this point. So we're delighted last May to have 4 finalists. They were from both coasts of the US, and we had 1 finalist from Cameroon, and we were really thankful to be able to include people literally from all around the world. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're definitely planning to keep that up.
Yeah. So where do you see it going from here? Because that was kind of, that whole initiative was put together for a particular purpose, and then it's kind of migrated into this new thing with the challenge, and it sounds like it's still moving forward. So tell us a little bit about where it might be headed.
Yeah, so I think, the challenge was certainly the start, and then we've really done a lot more work to build this up into a larger initiative. So part of that looks like lending our, research and strategy expertise in those methodologies to this focus area of women's health. So we're, always talking to companies about, kinds of research collaborations we could do with them, and lending we already do so well to the field. And then I talk to a lot of startup founders that are just looking for mentorship, just kind of looking at, I think there's kind of, like if I wanted to be a startup founder, I've learned a lot through working with this initiative, but I'm not sure that I would know still how to do a lot of things, like how to build an engineering team, how to find investors to pitch to, all of these things. And a lot of people just come to us with questions because they want to start something in Femtech, but they don't even really know where to start, or they have questions. So I think building out the mentorship piece, both before the challenge for finalists, but also more largely, we have so many senior leaders in the field who want to provide mentorship, want to be part of these exciting new ventures. And I think what we're really working on now is getting as many mentors as possible into the program so that we can best support the innovators doing the work.
That's great. I was talking with someone the other day who managed, I didn't even know they did this, but who managed to secure some contracts with major corporations around the United States who pay, I guess, some money toward nonprofits for however many hours their employees volunteer.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. So he has a volunteer pool to end all. And the volunteers are coming from these major corporations. So I think it's like for every 4 hours that their employees volunteer, then there's a certain amount of money that goes from the corporation into the nonprofit that they're volunteering through. So that could be something to check out.
That is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, it is. He has several, and they're names that you would know. They're the corporate names that you would know. So that, who knows, that might be an avenue to go. So tell me, let's back up just a little bit. Was it the 4 finalists or the 4 challenge winners that you mentioned? Can you give us an idea a little bit about their projects? So that I want people to, when they're hearing this, to to kind of have some kind of identification to know, what is a winning innovation?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about the finalists. So we had 4 finalists. One was a company called Tech. They're working on a smart bra to detect endpoints of cardiovascular health in women, which is, I think, largely understudied in women, but affects a large portion of women. So that was very exciting. We see a lot of smart bras. I think a lot around breast cancer, and so this aspect of cardiovascular health was new. We also had Presk, which is working on improving and kind of innovating in the breastfeeding space and helping new moms who are having trouble, which I think is not something that is talked a lot about, but I think most this experience. And so, and also I should say, one of the, I think my favorite things about this field is that the problems that are being solved are often ones that are never talked about, but almost every woman goes through, or her mother went through, or her friend goes through. So it's just a really good way to kind of learn more about yourself and your own.
And with moms, if you feel like for some reason the breastfeeding thing is not going well, you feel somewhat guilty, like it's your fault or something, that something's not right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just seeing the innovation in that space, it's just fascinating, and I was just so excited to see where it will go.
Yeah.
Then we had Infuse, which was our finalist out of Cameroon. She was working on basically blood bank management, which was really important, and we considered a women's health tech issue because I want to say a huge majority of, I think it was 90%, I could be wrong, of the population that they serve as women who are experiencing postpartum hemorrhage, or not population they serve, but I think proportion of people that die from not having access to blood banks. So we're seeing, we got a lot of applications actually coming out of Nigeria, Cameroon, having to do with certain aspects of blood bank management. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting space to watch in innovation, women's health innovation. And then finally, Dioptra, who is rethinking the speculum. And so I have to be careful what I say because I want to protect IP.
Sure.
But we all know that, the speculum has not been really updated since the 1850s. Nobody likes it. Everybody has an experience. Everybody who has experienced a speculum knows that we don't like it, and there needs to be improvement. So that was another really exciting one for us. And even though HITLAB, really specializes in digital health, I like to keep the Women's Health Tech Initiative broad, in that we can, it doesn't have to be specific to software or a digital piece. It can be hardware or a combination of software and hardware, because sometimes innovation comes from, just small changes to hardware that make our quality of life that much better. So those are the 4 finalists. They're pretty different in terms of their focus areas, which is really exciting. And I think it really speaks to this holistic idea that we have, that women's health is human health. And so it's not just sexual and reproductive health. It's not just about the ability to have a child or care for a child. It really spans the entire life course. And so that's the mindset that we bring to the field. And I think that's what makes our kind of pool of finalists so exciting too.
That's fantastic. I just love that. So can you give me an idea? I know when was the program brought into fruition?
Yeah, so I think the program started back in 2019. So it's
2019. So okay, we're about a year or so out. What early impacts do you see for this? And then that we'll kind of finish up the interview with that. So tell me what kind of early impacts you might be seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the early impact really is just that at this point, we're the only ones kind of bringing attention to women's health tech in this way. There's a lot of companies who are, pooling resources together, who are kind of popping up to do podcasts or, bring investors and founders together. We're the only ones that have a challenge in this women's health tech space, and also the only ones that focus on research and strategy in women's health tech. So I think just for companies that I talk to, just knowing that this initiative exists for them is so exciting. And so we're just really hoping to build it up and really become better at being able to lend the work that we do to the field.
So it sounds like the impact, or it is the opportunity itself, really, that
Yeah,
you're opening the door to that opportunity for female
exactly.
founders.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So if I were to ask you what would be needed for the program to grow, would you say partners,
Yes.
collaborators,
I
who
would say
else?
the hardest thing for us has been honestly to find sponsors. A lot of people are willing to
Mhm.
donate their time, the resources that they have, connections. I think, and this is true across the board of women's health. Actually,
Mhm.
getting capital is a totally different story, or getting, actually the operational donations that you need to keep
Mhm.
going is the hardest part. So I would say, in terms of for the women's health tech innovators, it's investment. For us, it's just getting sponsors on board to be able to continue to do this work.
Fantastic. Well, we'll hope to help you do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is great, Abby, and I know that you're kind of moving on and out in the world doing other things. So we wish you luck in doing that, and blessings in all that you do, because certainly you're making a difference. So we really appreciate that. So keep a connection with us. I can see definitely some people that from the edition of the magazine that your video will fall into, that these are people that need to know you, and you need to know them to pass this information forward. So I'm hoping that the impact that you're having now will be expanded the moment that the magazine goes live. So thank you very much for your time and your expertise and your heart. So
Thank
thank you
you
for
so
all
much.
that you
It
do.
was great to speak with you. It was a lot of fun.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.